Hey, hello, how are you? We're going to be going over today how to actually interpret your test results. So let me just share my screen so that we can actually see an example of some tests. So let's see, whose did I pull up? It's either mine or my husband's. Okay, here's my husband's test results. So he's a fast oxidizer, as you can see. We look towards the top right-hand corner to find your metabolic type. So it will say fast, fast one, fast two, three, or four. Same thing for slow. We also have 1 through 4. So the thing with that, like what slow metabolizer, oxidizer, the words are interchangeable. What that means is like when we have a slow metabolism, things are slowing down. Everything's on slow mode, from our mood, our digestion, our energy. Everything is on the slow side. When we are a fast metabolizer, everything's moving a little too quickly. So that means we're most likely burning through our minerals too quickly. So it's not a matter of, oh, that girl over there looks really skinny. She must be so lucky that she has a fast metabolism. That's not the case. It doesn't always mean that. So it just means that you're burning through things awfully quickly. So if you are a fast metabolizer, you can see here, like my husband, and now your minerals will not be the same, obviously, as mine or my husband's, but you can get an idea of if they're high or they're low and where things are. So my husband is this calcium is very low, you can see, and excuse me. So he's really burning through this quickly. Actually, this test has really improved for him. This is a retest for him. He was originally a fast 4. So he went from a fast 4 to or a fast 3. I know he was further along, and he was a little more burnt out. Well, I've gotten him to slow down a bit, and he's moved up to a fast 1. These minerals here, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, are your 4 main minerals. They're your main minerals because whatever they do, they're going to affect all of your other elements. So this is why we focus on bringing these main minerals back to balance, because they're kind of like dominoes in a sense. So when one goes down, they all go down. When you bring them back up, everything else follows suit that way, which is kind of nice. So you can see here, well, before, let me tell you, that his calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium were all very low. He was in, I believe, a 4 lows pattern. So obviously, you can see he's brought some of them back up, which is great. And that is from following his nutrition and supplement protocol and, all the good food I make him and, doing all the things I tell him to do. He's good like that. And you can see an example of some results that you can get. This I want to share with you. See how the sodium is really high, copper is really high. Doesn't mean there's a lot of sodium or copper. It actually means a depletion. So if you have any one of your minerals that's like it looks super high, and it's not that you have a lot of it, it's that you actually have a depletion. You're actually depleted of it because our minerals get depleted due to stress. So we just tested your hair, which is a tissue. We can see a lot of these minerals coming out in your hair. So we know that they're in your tissues, not where they belong. So that's how we know, like if they're not where they belong, it makes these minerals like they're there in your body, but they're just not in a usable state. So we need to make them usable. So right now they're called, well, this one, I should say anyway, depending on where your level is, but like his sodium and his copper, just for example, we call it bio unavailable. And that means it's there, just not able to be used by the body. So we need to turn that around and make them bioavailable so that they can actually be used properly by the body. So we're going to focus on these. We want to be anywhere in the middle of this white area. Anything below this, above or below this white area, shows an imbalance. And I know this is a reference range, but this is really where we're optimal here, okay? So something else I want to touch on, because we don't need to focus, because we focus on the 4 main minerals, we don't need to focus on every little thing because it's just not how the body works. But I do want to point out That his copper, because his copper is bioavailable. This is, I mean, they're all important to make bioavailable, but especially copper. And there's such a super huge reason behind that, because our iron here, this is iron at the Fe. Iron, as we age, it accumulates in our body due to packaged processed products. A lot of our packaged products, especially cereals, will say fortified with iron, and the FDA has actually increased the amount of that over the years. It's crazy that they have, because those are iron shards. It's iron shavings that they're fortifying your food with. So this is not going to be absorbed by your body. Why would a metal be absorbed by your body? It's going to float around in there. It's synthetic, and it's going to turn toxic over time. And especially iron will rust over time, whether it's outside your body or inside your body, it's going to rust. So that's where it's going to turn to sickness, disease, symptoms, cancers. So our iron will store in our liver, our tissues, our spleen, but not where it should be. Okay, we want it in our red blood cells, right? So we can function optimally, we can feel really good. We need to create more bioavailable copper, which when we create bioavailable copper, that becomes a form called ceruloplasmin. That ceruloplasmin will go in and it'll push that iron, that we call it excess unbound iron, push it back into your red blood cells so that, yeah, it will function optimally and you will feel really good. Okay, so if you've been told you're anemic, you're not. It's not that you lack the iron, because you have an excess of it in your tissues. Because what our doctors don't realize is that when they see the iron levels in the blood, is that it's actually 10 times higher in the tissues. Okay, so that's where we actually need more copper, bioavailable copper. And that's where everything I tell you on here, it all funnels down to your protocol. So we are working on building up our bioavailable copper through our protocol. So there's things in your protocol like the vitamin C, whole food vitamin C, not ascorbic acid, ascorbate, citric acid. That's the shell of the vitamin C. You want the whole food vitamin C. The shell is going to tear down your bioavailable copper. We want the whole food that's going to build it up. Also retinol, which is your vitamin A. Copper itself as well within the beef liver. And that's going to help build it up. A lot of you will see beef liver on your protocol, because I want you to build up your bioavailable copper. And if you are somebody who is willing to eat that, best, most nutrient dense food you could eat, and especially to build up that bioavailable copper. If you don't choose to eat it, like I don't, that's okay. You can take the pill form. So we can supplement. It. So that's the reason for your supplements, or some of those anyway. Let's take a look at phosphorus is another big one, because a lot of us end up with digestive issues. So between phosphorus and cobalt. So our sodium, potassium, phosphorus, and cobalt have to do with our digestion. So think bloating, digestive upset, even constipation, diarrhea, things like that. Let's see, my husband's phosphorus is a little bit above. His cobalt is a little bit, his cobalt's showing low. So cobalt is actually your stomach acid. So it's showing low, so that's telling me he has low stomach acid. So that means if our stomach acid is low, then we don't have that acid there to break down the foods that are coming in. So if we can't break down the foods that's coming in, what happens to food when it just kind of sits there? It tends to ferment, right? So that's where we get the gas, the bloating, the digestive upset, all those fun symptoms. So we need to actually build up the stomach acid, okay? Phosphorus as well here. Phosphorus, if his phosphorus was low, now I'm talking the low side, both cobalt and phosphorus, if it's below this middle white line here, that would put you in a protein catabolic state. I think mine might have, let me check mine. Mine's just a little bit below. So this one was one of my tests. I've retested several times, but this, you can see the difference in mine, in my mineral levels. But anyway, so for a low phosphorus, that's where you put you in a protein catabolic state. Catabolic is to break down, like catabolism, breaking down. What's breaking down? Well, when we eat protein, it's going to prioritize what's most important, which is life. So it will go to our organs and our tissues first. Anything left over will then go out to our hair, our skin, our nails. If there's not even enough, like when we were eating the protein and we're in that catabolic state, the protein isn't being broken down, so we're not absorbing all of the protein that we should be getting from it, which means it's not going to enough of it is not going to our organs and our tissues. So now our organs and our tissues are actually what's breaking down from the inside, okay? Never mind our hair, skin, nails getting any of it. So a lot of us, I hear complain about dry hair, dry skin, brittle, flaky nails, hair actually thinning and falling out. I've had that happen. My hair was coming out in clumps at one point, and I've always been really good about eating enough protein, but it didn't matter because my body wasn't getting all of it. So that there lies like an absorption issue. So some of us are dealing with an absorption issue, especially when we're like, you know what? I eat clean, I eat healthy. Like, why would my minerals be off? Well, if we're not actually absorbing what we're bringing in, then there's going to, a part of the piece of the puzzle there is that mineral imbalance, okay? If your cobalt here, like mine, is high or showing a little bit high, that tells me there's probably some liver stress going on. So I actually take milk thistle for this, okay? And if yours just showing high and you want to look into some, liver support, just let me know, pop it into the community or message me, let me know. So when let me go back to the iron, because there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle to this. So when our iron stores in our liver, tissue, and spleen, not where we want it, our liver is where a lot of that T4 to T3 for our thyroid hormone conversion happens. So if it's kind of like gunked up, jammed up, so to speak, with iron that shouldn't be there, it's going to make it a little difficult for that T4 to T3 conversion to happen, right? So that's where I know this is part of my reason for my conversion. So I have to really work on building up my bioavailable copper so it can move that iron out of my liver back to my red blood cells. And then my conversion, my T4 to T3 conversion can happen much more easily for my thyroid, right? So that's just an example of a higher cobalt. Now we have these are our heavy metals over here, this pink box, the toxic elements. I got a bit of uranium going on. This one used to actually be all the way to the top, and I've been able to bring it down. Uranium is kind of like from like if you have a rocky soil type area, we have a lot of granite in my area. So it just depends on, our foods, our soils are so depleted and so heavily sprayed. Our root veggies, we eat those, they grow in the ground, that, these heavily sprayed soils, and we eat them. But honestly, these are not a huge concern, only because iron is the star of the show when it comes to a metal here. When we start get this iron recycling system going, it's going to make the world of difference for everything else. So it's nice that we can focus on one other little thing and then everything else follows suit for us, okay? I'm going to bring you down here to your significant ratios. Now, these are our four main minerals, our calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, but now they're in a ratio form. So they're going to act a lot differently than when they're just by themselves because they're synergistic with one another, and they can also be antagonistic sometimes too. But they need to balance out each other. That's what we're trying to work on. That's why it's never good to single supplement. So say, for example, if your doctor wanted to give you a calcium supplement, well, that's going to throw your magnesium off even more. Because see how these are cofactors together? We actually, or say if your calcium, you're having a lot of joint pain, you need magnesium to balance out that calcium that's causing the joint pain, okay? This is our calcium to phosphorus, the first one in line here. This one is showing high. That's typical. This is all about our metabolism for calcium to phosphorus. That's showing definitely a slow metabolizer, whereas my husband is a fast, and you'll see that his is much lower. So that's how this one tells us about our metabolism. The sodium to potassium, his is rather high. It tells us there's some stress going on, some acute stress, inflammation in the body, probably some poor gut health, whereas mine is pretty high too. I think his is a little higher, or just slightly. Calcium to potassium, losing my mind. Calcium to potassium here. This one is our thyroid ratio. So you can see that this one is on the low side, which actually means for a hair tissue test, actually means it's higher for thyroid. So meaning he's hyperthyroid tendencies. He's not diagnosed hyperthyroid or anything, but he has more of the hyperthyroid tendencies toward those types of symptoms. Again, fast metabolizer, burning through things, going through things quickly. So what happens with our thyroid hormone is it needs to get into the cell so it can actually just function optimally. Well, when you're a fast metabolizer and you're tending towards hyperthyroidism, what happens is that the thyroid hormone is going in too quickly into the cell. We need to slow it down. Whereas a slow metabolizer like myself here, let's see, mine is showing much higher, right? Mine's much higher right here. That means the calcium, due to stress, has leached out, it's come out of my bones, my teeth, and it's gone into my tissues. Well, calcium is a hard substance, so we don't want it anywhere that's soft. Tissues are soft. So calcium will calcify just like it does around your kitchen faucet. It'll calcify in your body. That's where people end up with things like hardening of the arteries, gallstones, kidney stones, cataracts, joint issues, things like that. The problem with the thyroid is that calcium will come along and it will harden, it will calcify around the cell. So now it's going to make it really difficult for the thyroid hormone to be able to get into the cell. So we need more potassium. We got to boost up that potassium because potassium makes the cell more permeable, meaning it can get in a lot more easily into the cell. Okay. And that's where my slow metabolizers work on increasing their potassium specifically and their sodium. We need 4,700 milligrams of potassium every day. We're not getting that just going about our day randomly eating. There's no way we're getting 4,700 milligrams of potassium. But when you focus on it, that's where it makes all the difference. So you'll see that I've listed a lot of your high potassium type foods, your acorn squash, your butternut squash, potatoes, tomatoes, kiwi, mango, even your drinks. Your drinks are going to help get you to that number 2, like nettle tea, aloe vera juice, coconut water, your adrenal cocktail, okay? All very important factors here. So my zinc to copper here, this tells us of our infection type ratio. So this is like, do you tend towards more viral infections or bacterial infections? And let's see what my husband's is really low. His is, yeah, because it's just burning through everything too quickly. So that's the thing with our fast metabolizers is we got to get you to slow down. That's where magnesium comes into play. I recommend magnesium to be increased more we all need it. It's very important for us, but especially our fast metabolizers, because magnesium is very calming, relaxing, gets you to slow down, whereas potassium is more of an upper. Okay, so that's the difference of why one would increase one and one needs to increase the other. Right here, sodium to magnesium, that's our adrenal gland ratio. So you can see as a fast metabolizer, he is just on high. He is burning through those stress hormones and they're just going crazy, right? His adrenals are pretty tired. So that's he's going to go, but then he's going to crash and he's going to feel like he needs something to keep going all the time. Like you feel the need for that stimulant, whether it's caffeine or sugar or alcohol or something like that. Okay. But we got to get you to slow down. Mine, on the other hand, as a slow metabolizer, complete opposite, mine are tanked. They're still tired. They're still like running on high, but they're tired. They're exhausted, constantly pumping out that cortisol and the adrenal hormones the stress hormones from your adrenal glands. It gets really tiring after a while. So that's why mine are so low. Calcium to magnesium is our blood sugar ratio. So blood sugar goes hand in hand with our calcium. Thyroid. Our calcium to potassium is our thyroid. Mine, because this is showing high, actually means low blood sugar. And I certainly have the symptoms for it, the heart palpitations, because that has to do a lot to do with our magnesium, the getting shaky, not being able to really tolerate those stimulants like my husband can because he burns through it. Like he can have 2-3 cups of coffee throughout the day and even one in the evening and not even be affected by it. Where I have one and I'm like shaking. I'm like ready to pass out. So that's the difference between fast and slow. If I do have any kind of coffee, it's always decaf. I do not need that stimulant. And then our iron to copper here is where mine's not showing too much of an imbalance, but because I see up here what they're doing individually, I know that I have some bio unavailable copper, and my iron here is excreting into my tissues. I have a lot of it in my tissues that it needs to get out. And this is, side note, this is actually why women tend to live longer than men because we bleed once a month. So we're getting rid of some of that excess iron because it's toxic in our body. So we need eventually down the road, I'll suggest blood donations, but you want to get yourself to a good place first. So that's not where we start, but it is somewhere that we can start incorporating. So let me know if you have any questions, pop it into the community for me. I know this was a quick overview. I'm going to stop my share here. Okay. I know this was a quick overview and this was, my results, my husband's results. So it's somebody completely different from, what yours is. So wherever your levels are currently, and you want to share that with us, or if you have any questions about where your levels are, to be able to implement your protocol, making sure that you're implementing it correctly so that we can get the best results for you, pop your questions into the community, and I'm so happy to answer those for you, and we can elaborate more on that. All right, I'm going to pop off and see you on the next one.